Hi, my name is Elizabeth and welcome to my channel. I found out I was being made redundant a week after I purchased a new house, and I have now worked through my 2 months notice and have been officially unemployed for a week now. Now I've been looking into going back into freelancing and self-employment, as well as potentially setting up my new business. And this week I have secured a new client. So if you watched last week's video, you will have seen that I had 2 interviews lined up, both for freelance client work. And one of them has offered me a job role, which is great. And that will be for 3 days a week for 3 hours a day, which is great because that works with the days that my daughter is in nursery. The other interview didn't happen. It was a video call. I was sat waiting and the guy just never showed up. He has then since come back and tried to rearrange another meeting, which he didn't show up to again. And now we're trying to rearrange another second interview. I've already had one interview with him, which went perfectly fine. We just need to arrange this second one. But I just wanted to go through the story of how I managed to secure this other client, because it isn't through the channels I would usually have used to look for a freelance client. I would usually look on Upwork and LinkedIn. However, this was a job that popped up on Indeed.com. When I first found out I was being made redundant, I was using all of the platforms to look for jobs, and I was also applying for employed roles as well. Because I have been a freelancer previously, I'm perfectly comfortable with continuing with freelance work. I don't feel like I have to have a employed role. And in fact, I personally find more security with freelance roles than I do with employment. If you're employed and that's your one job and you're made redundant like I am, that's it. Your income has gone. Whereas if you have, say, 4 freelance clients and you lose one client, you only have to replace that one client. You still have 3 other clients that is bringing you income. I've also been made redundant 4 times, all from employed roles. So I think I'm just going to stick with the freelance side and setting up my own business for the time being. So with this client, the job role came up on Indeed.com and it was advertised as a freelance role. This isn't somewhere that I would have looked for this. I would have used the other platforms and channels, but it came up on Indeed.com. So if you're looking for freelance roles, have a look on there, because there may be fully remote freelance roles on there lurking in between the employed roles like this one was. So for this role, I did the application, sent in my CV. I then sent them in a very long cover letter because there was nowhere on the Indeed platform for me to submit a cover letter for some reason. I don't know whether they hadn't clicked that as an option maybe. So I sent them a separate message, which was my cover letter essentially. They then arranged a phone interview with me, which I did. They then arranged for an in-person meeting. Now this company is actually very local to me. It's a couple of villages away, and it is a role where I'll be working in their home office. So I went there and had an interview with the founder of the company, and then an interview with another member of the team. And then I had to supply not 1, not 2, but 4 references for this job. So luckily I had my previous employer and a couple of previous freelance clients who were all more than happy to give me references. And I've been given the go-ahead that yes, they would like to have me join their team. So that's great. So next week, hopefully I will start working with them. So that just goes to show that sometimes client work will pop up in areas that you would not expect. The other one where I'm still trying to arrange this second interview is through Upwork. And I also have another freelance client who I kept whilst I was employed. I'll technically have 2 freelance clients. I'm going to see how that works out, and then hopefully I will add a third. Alongside that, this week I also had a chat with another freelancer. So we had a lovely chat. Because she's marketing and I'm operations, we come across the same types of companies, but our work is very different. And so we've both decided that should either of us find any jobs that pop up that would be suitable for each other, we will pass those along. which I think is great. So if you can do some networking with other freelancers as well in a similar capacity, who knows what jobs that could bring up. It might be that she works with another small company who is focusing on marketing, but she looks at it and thinks, you know, you also need an ops manager to come in and help you. Then she'll put my name forward, and vice versa. If I'm working for someone or I see something that's looking for a marketing freelancer, then I will put her name forward. So I do think that's a good way for networking. And it's also nice to have friends who are also freelancers, so they understand what it's like trying to find clients. They understand not having the constant income. They know all the struggles and the positives of being freelance, because it is different from employment. As for my business, I'm looking to start an in-person craft workshop business. So in one of my previous videos, you may have seen that I was working on a dried flower wreath. That worked quite well. I liked the materials that I used, so I just needed to develop that into some form of class. Now, we are actually coming up to some holidays, so I am going to switch my focus ever so slightly and look at children's classes, because I would like to host some children's classes throughout the summer holidays. I learned to sew when I was in primary school, and I really think that helped with my love of crafting and my ability to sew. There's a lot of people these days who don't know how to do basic sewing because you're just not taught it. And so I want to aim some classes at the upper end of primary school age for children to come in and make something, but whilst they're making it, they'll be learning some of the basic sewing techniques that I learned when I was younger. And I absolutely loved it when I was a kid. We did it in primary school, we did it at lunchtimes. We had someone come in and they taught us how to make different little, like we made a bookmark or we made a pin cushion, all these different things. So I'm switching my mind ever so slightly to children's craft ideas at the moment. I'm going to test out a couple of those in the next couple of weeks, and then I'm going to push forwards with the marketing and getting these ideas and classes in front of parents to see what they think of it, and then arrange a location and try to push some spaces. And once I've done the children's classes, I'll then switch back to the adults classes for September and continue with that. So that's what I've got at the moment. The gardening's very quiet at the moment. I am scouring Facebook, the local Facebook pages, and no one seems to be putting any gardening inquiries up. So I have done a very brief leaflet drop last week. That was the heat wave and we really couldn't be out for very long. I had my daughter with me. So this week I'm going to try and do the rest of the leaflet drops in the areas that I am aiming for. My sister, who is also a full-time gardener, has not heard of any inquiries. Even she was like, it's very quiet at the moment. Usually she gets inquiries come directly to her, and the plan was she would then move any simpler ones to me for me to go and quote for, because she's fully booked at the moment anyway. But she's not had any inquiries. It's very quiet at the moment. So we'll see. I've got the leaflets. I'm going to continue with that. I would still like to do that because I think alongside an in-office job, having some gardening clients, I think would be a benefit. It would be a nice difference throughout the day. I could do the office in the morning and then do 1 or 2 gardening clients in the afternoons. That would be the plan anyway. I might end up filling all of my time with laptop-based freelance clients, and if that's the case, that's the case. But I would really like to have 1 or 2 gardening clients as well. Because it is the beginning of June, I thought I'd do a little earnings roundup for May, just to be completely transparent on what I've earned through my little side hustles and through the one freelance client that I kept through the employment time that I still have. Just to show you, it's not a big number, but it's a realistic number, especially if you're starting out with freelancing. I have a little Etsy shop where I sell materials, fabrics, that type of thing. I very rarely sell much on there, and I haven't really pushed it because you've got to buy the stock first and then obviously resell it. You've got larger overheads that way. But with some of the stock that I've got left over, I made a whopping £18.58. That's after Etsy have taken all of their fees and it's landed in my bank account. So for the whole month of May, this is quite a good month, I made £18.58p. I also have a candle business. This is quite seasonal, Christmas time. It seems much better for candles, but I did have some website sales and I also did a market. a very bad market, I will add, but I did do a market in May. And so for my candles, I made a total of £182.31p. And then my freelance client that I do a few hours for a week, my invoice that I submitted was £609.50p. I will add they have not paid me for this yet. That is one thing you need to keep in mind with freelance clients, is that sometimes you have to chase them. You can submit your invoice, doesn't mean they're going to pay it. And this client, unfortunately, is notorious for not paying my invoices. So I may get paid this in a couple of days. It may come to the end of June when I submit my next invoice and say, can you please pay me for my previous invoice? And I'll get paid both of them together, which has also happened quite a few times. I know I will always get paid by this client, but it is frustrating having to chase them. So just keep that in mind, that your bills may go out on the 1st of the month. It doesn't mean you'll necessarily be paid before then by the clients. In total, that came to £810.39p. My freelance invoice was higher than normal because we had some additional projects on. It would usually be about £200 a month, so it's not big money for this particular client, but I did more hours in May, so it was £609.50. And again, that just goes to show the fluctuation in your freelance hours. Some months you'll have more, some months you'll have less. Hopefully with my new client, when I start hopefully next week, that will be more of a steady income because it's set hours, and I doubt it won't fluctuate as much. Now, another income on here that I have not added into that total is YouTube, because halfway through May, my channel became monetized, which is great and not what I was expecting this early on. And so according to my dashboard, I've made £75.11p, which is great, and I was not expecting to make that. I haven't included that in my total because it hasn't been paid into my bank account. I don't know how the system works. I don't know how much of a delay there is with AdSense and YouTube and it actually being paid out to you. But apparently I've made £75.11p via YouTube. So thank you to everyone who watches and interacts with my videos. It has been great to see all of the comments and the messages from people. And lots of people seem to be in the same boat. Lots of people are very, very encouraging and very kind with their words. So thank you to everyone who watches and interacts with all of these, because this wouldn't happen without you guys. So we'll see what next month comes to as well, but I'm not including it in my income because it hasn't hit my bank account. I could say the same for the freelance invoice, but I know that's definitely going to be paid. YouTube is still an anomaly because I haven't gone through the full process yet. May, obviously I had my redundancy. I left my employed role and have plunged straight back into freelancing. I also want to point out that I didn't leave my job last week and then get this new job instantly. I have been applying for jobs for 8 weeks, and it's taken that amount of time for me to secure this freelance client, and I still haven't even started the role yet. They're on holiday now this week, so I have to wait until next week before I even start and can start earning money. So just keep in mind, it can take months to secure these clients. So please don't feel disheartened if you're trying to get clients, you're applying for roles, you're not hearing back. It does take time. The other role that I'm still waiting on and we're still interviewing with, I applied for that role right at the very beginning when I first found out I was being made redundant. And I didn't hear back for weeks and weeks and weeks. I assumed I was not in the running for this job role. And then they got in contact and was like, oh, do you want to do an interview? And obviously that one is still ongoing. So that's been 8 weeks in the process and I still haven't secured that client or a second interview. I know a second interview is coming. So again, please don't feel too disheartened if you are trying to apply for things. It's taking a long time. You will get there eventually. But if anyone else has switched to freelancing from employed, what is something you wish you knew before you went into freelancing? I think it'd be really useful to find out from other people what they wish they knew first, to share with people who are maybe thinking about making the jump to freelancing, or maybe they're being made redundant and freelancing is a better option for them. So yes, if you have gone from employment to freelancing, what is something you wish you knew before you had made that jump? I will have another update for you next week.